a lot of people will come in, it sounds really good. I want to make $50, $75, $100,000 a year. I want to make $150,000 a year. Lots of people want to make that kind of money, but are you willing to do the work?
In today's episode of Rise, Grind, Repeat, we talked to Eric and Joe from My Biz Coaches. We discuss why it's so important for business owners to have a mentor or coach as they're growing their business. Let's dive right in. You guys, thank you so much for joining another episode of Rise, Grind, Repeat. Looking forward to this because something that comes up quite a bit on this podcast are mentors and coaches and My Biz Coaches. That's excited to hear more of what you guys do. But before we kind of dive into that, well, I'd love to hear kind of your backstory and how did you get to where you are today?
Awesome. Appreciate that. Thank you very much, Dustin. So myself, I'm a husband, father of 2, and grandfather of 3 now. So I'm staying pretty busy. But so I over the years, I spent 8 years in the National Guard, the Army National Guard. I was a professional kickboxer, was a champion there. Had a lot of success, a lot of things I did over the years. When I moved into my business career, it happened to be I was going to NAU. Okay. And while I was up at NAU, I was studying accounting and finance, and I realized about my junior year, I'm like, man, this sucks. I don't want to do this. I actually sold a business to go to college at 24. So
really?
I'd already been self-employed, and I'm like, what was I thinking? I thought I was going to get this easy job, and like, this is not a good idea. So my junior year, I got an internship with an accounting firm and realized that was not going to be a good fit. So I took a job in the wireless industry. And that was my next 20 some odd years. I spent 20 years doing sales, and I worked myself up from a sales rep all the way up to an executive. I helped 3 companies grow to $100 million in annual revenue. Wow. And the last company I worked for, we actually sold that for $80 million. So it was a nice payday. Unfortunately, one thing I learned that was really important was if you want to make the real money, you need to be the owner or one of the owners. If you're an employee that helps build the business, they take care of you, but not in the same level that you do when you're on a thing. So over the years, I had a number of small businesses that I did. And I became very passionate about just business in general. I always was like that. I was just kind of that driven person. So I had a number of small businesses. I had a leads business. I had a martial arts school back when I was kickboxing. I did. I started at one point. I had trucking business that I built up. It was actually the fastest growing business in the Southwest.
That's amazing.
Private owned, and I was able to get to 26 trucks in less than a year. So,
holy cow.
Yeah, we had a coffee shop at one time. So we had a lot of different things that I did, and what ended up happening was I had such a passion for what I was doing, and people were familiar with some of the projects I'd worked on and the business I worked in. I got a lot of people asking me for advice. How do I do this? How do I do that? What should I do next? How would I do this? And I was like, there's something here. And in my transition from moving from that last company we sold, moving from the wireless industry and trying to figure out what I want to do next, I thought I wanted to be a life coach. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just, after having some conversations with people that they're like, hey, you might be better suited for business because that's what you do. Yeah. Right. That's what you're passionate about. That's what you spend all your time researching. And so I chose to kind of redirect from the life coaching thing. I got a bunch of certifications. I got certified by Jack Canfield, which has been a phenomenal asset, even in the business coaching, because it helps me analyze people's personalities and help them through the sticking points that all business owners go through. The different challenges that you work through. I'm sure you've had some of those same struggles yourself, right?
Plenty.
Yeah. So to that point, we've kind of, I incorporate a lot of that into my business coaching. So it actually was really helpful that I did it, but I realized that was really where I was more passionate. So I moved into that space. And then at one point I was actually doing an insurance business, and that's when Joe and I kind of hooked up together.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And he really does. He gets so jazzed. Like, and sometimes we gotta bring it back because he'll get so excited. Someone will share an idea with him, and he's like, "Oh, we could do this." And he's such a problem.
I love that.
Yeah, he's a problem solver, and he just gets so excited about it, man. It's fun to work with them when people bring up new ideas or businesses. He's like, "All right, yeah, I got this." Yeah. But for myself, I've always been passionate about helping people. So as a kid, I thought I was gonna be a firefighter or a youth pastor or a teacher or something like that, and so. I did end up going that direction. Unfortunately, there's not much money in any of those. And my mother's a teacher, so I know very well.
Especially here in Arizona. I mean, if you're here in Arizona, they don't make a whole lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in business businesses, helping businesses grow, scale, just with their revenues, with sales teams mostly. I've coached and mentored sales teams to set record numbers, and really didn't realize how much I was worth. I was like, I'm not getting paid what I'm worth. So then I branched out. I met Eric through a mutual friend, helped him in the insurance business for a little while. Branched out, started my own insurance business, and it was going really well. And then come tax season, the best I did was track my numbers to what I thought was good, and then so I was like, I should probably reach out to Eric, because the mentorship I had in insurance with some other people, it was mostly, hey, sell this. This is how you sell. This is how you recruit. This is how you build your team. But I'm like, what about the back end stuff? Like, what am I doing with the taxes? How do I structure my business? Little things like that I didn't get much advice on. And I was so set on doing my own thing, I didn't even reach out to this guy for a little while. And then I reached out, and he helped me with my taxes. And we went through the numbers, and I really found out that my net and gross income were not at all close to what I thought it was. Because when we went through a new P&L, not the P&L I had, but a real P&L, then I was like, wow, so this is what I'm at. And so I was like, you know what, I really kind of started thinking about, do I have a passion for this, or what direction do I want to go? Do I want to stay in insurance? And then so after he did help me out with the taxes, he hit me up like 3 or 4 days later, I think it was, and he goes, hey, I need a favor. And I'm like, oh shit, now
he owed me at that point.
Yeah,
right?
I was like,
there was a lot of work to do.
So he goes, I need a favor. I'm like, of course. So this is where it comes in, right?
Smart man.
Yeah.
Provide value and then go for that.
That's right.
Yeah. And I'm like, all right, what is it? And he goes, well, my daughter has a baby shower coming up. My wife wants to know if you'll bartend for me. And so I'm like, sure, like how much trouble will you be in? I think I asked him, how much trouble will you be in if I say no? He goes, you can't say no. I was like, yeah, I got you. And then when we were sitting watching, when I was doing the bartending for the baby shower, he brought it up to me. He goes, hey, like I was thinking after doing that with you, he goes, I don't know how much free time you have or if you'd be interested in this, but I'm trying to do. Because at the time he was doing a lot of consulting one-on-one with businesses, being inside their business. And he goes, I want to be able to reach more people and expand my consulting business. And so he was like, you want to be on a project with me and help get that going? Yeah. And so I thought about it. And at first I was like trying to negotiate with him. Like, sure, like hand me your insurance business and then I'll help you with this, And then we just started talking and working on it. I'm like, wow, this is where the passion lies. Like definitely I get to help people, and it's all about business. It's fun to learn. And then I get to make money and hang out with my mentor all day. It's pretty fun, man.
That's cool. So it sounds like, you really come from the sales driving new revenue, and you're big on the operations, and really coming together has helped take it from, the passion and a solo entrepreneur to really growing, reaching more people, and getting to where you guys are scaling. And that partnership is what, sometimes needed to really get the ideas going, because it's a lot to start something.
Absolutely.
It is, man. Yeah. It definitely is. And we talked a little bit about that off camera. And
yeah,
definitely.
And as I've been doing some research, there's something that I've noticed quite a bit, and there's this number, $1 million. Why is this number so important? Would love to kind of hear some of your insight there.
Yeah. So $1 million, statistically, less than 91% of small businesses actually make it to $1 million in revenue. So
that is amazing.
Yeah. You see all these companies doing great, but you think about all these small businesses is on average, they're bringing in about $50,000 in actual income for themselves.
Yeah. Less than $60,000 is the average small business.
Wow.
When you look at the small business statistics.
That's amazing. We were actually talking about that, I think earlier this week, just how many businesses actually do $1 million or more. Right. We thought it was something like 60% don't do it. I thought it was basically split like half and half.
Single digits.
Yeah. That is amazing.
Yeah. 9% of businesses make it to $1 million in revenue.
Yeah. Wow. And if you, honestly, it drives the number down even more if you factor in the number of solopreneurs that are doing side hustles and stuff like that. It actually would dramatically drop it. But you just think about how many people are out there doing it, how hard they have to work, how much time and energy they put into building their own business, and they get compensated at a rate that probably get just about any other job anywhere else. Certainly not entry level, but anything with any kind of experience. So if you put that much time and energy and passion into a business, you should be able to get a better return out of it.
Oh yeah,
that's why you get into it, right? You're like, oh, time freedom and make a lot of money. And, 91% of people never get to see that.
Yeah. So. It's funny. I just had a conversation with someone that talking about that. The time freedom and all that. Entrepreneurs, the only crazy people that will leave a 40-hour-a-week job to go say, wait, 80 hours a week.
I was just gonna say 80-hour-week job, exactly.
Yeah,
for half the pay.
For half the pay. So I mean, what outside of just that number of, very very few businesses make it to that milestone. Are there any other significance in that number in terms of how you guys help or any other insight?
Yeah, so I would we were kind of coming through, we're going back and forth and trying to figure out what's our mission here. We got to have something to really kind of hang our hat on. And we went through an exercise which I would do with a client, but now I'm trying to expand my business, and I'm thinking, okay, what is that? What's our mission? What's our vision? What are our values? What are we going to hold true to? Because I know when it comes to scaling an organization, that if you don't have those things in alignment and you aren't consistent with that, then your business typically doesn't really scale the way that you'd like to see it scale. And so that being said, we kind of thought through that and said, okay, we're going to have a lot of people working with it. We should demonstrate what we're talking about, what we're coaching about, right? And so we came up with our mission, and we were kind of going back and forth. We came across that statistic on the $1 million, and we're like, and I said, we have $1 billion mission. And I was like, that sounds actually pretty cool.
And I was like, Eric, I dream big, right? I was like, I dream big, $1 billion. I mean, that's cool, man. But let's start small goals and then keep going.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, wait, let me explain it to you. And then this is what he came up with.
Our goal is to help 1,000 businesses achieve $1 million in annual revenue.
That is cool.
Yeah, so that would be your $1 billion. So, and that's how we kind of came together with that concept of our mission of being $1 billion and why that $1 million is so important to us. At $1 million, the average small business is, it depends. There's a lot of accounting issues. Having been my background, there's a lot that goes into that. But generally speaking, if you can net 20% of that $1 million, you're at $200,000. That puts you in the top 3 to 5% of income earners in the United States. And I feel like if you're going to put that time and energy and say that my whole thing about building business, being able to effectively scale, there's a lot that goes into that. There's a lot of systems and automation. There's, hiring right, being able to delegate, being an effective leader. There's so many different components that go into being able to build a business to get that kind of result. But if you're going to do it, my opinion is do it right.
Yeah.
It's either that or you're a solopreneur and you can control and you basically have like a lifestyle business.
Yeah.
And so our focus is we help people understand where is it you want to go, what do you want to accomplish, and then we help guide you in that path so that you don't find yourself lost along the way, sitting on the side going, I don't know where I messed up. And but that's kind of how we got to that mission.
No, that's huge. I mean, with so few businesses that can do $1 million, 1,000 businesses, that's a pretty lofty goal. I mean, just hearing the background, no doubts that you guys can accomplish that. But how do you guys help coach businesses to accomplish that $1 million? There's a lot that you've mentioned that I absolutely love. The accounting, that's a huge piece.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, that piece, the systems and automation, delegate. I think these are all common things that entrepreneurs, business owners struggle with. So how do you guys coach people to be able to accomplish that $1 million?
Great question.
When it comes to scaling, we have 3 key principles for scaling. The first is going to be creating systems for automation, or the first is going to be knowing your numbers and driving revenues. The second is going to be creating systems for automation. And then the third is going to be creating like a network of people to act as an advisory board. So most small businesses have 1 or 2 people they could bounce ideas off of. They're not a big corporation that has a board of directors.
Yep.
And so we come in, we act as that board. We'll bounce ideas off of us and create ideas and where you're going to move, help make hard decisions, things like that. And then as far as the numbers and knowing your numbers and creating systems of automation, if you want to speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, so a big factor on knowing the numbers really is if you don't know your numbers, you can't effectively scale. We were actually talking about that right before, right? You were in your side of the business, right? It's like you mentioned one of your clients. You're like they're losing 30 cents on every dollar they spend, right? And you help them turn that around.
Yeah.
That's a lot of the same of what we do, right? They have all the other systems and processes in place, and what's the return you're getting for the investment you're putting in, and make sure that they understand that, because if you're losing 30 cents on every dollar and you just spend more dollars, you're just going to lose more 30 cents, right? Exactly. Yep. So, getting them to understand that. What's really ironic, and I think what's probably most challenging, is that most small business owners really don't have that background. They don't have that background in system or analyzing numbers and things like that. Or they don't really have any passion for that back end of the business. And if they're not partnered appropriately with somebody within the organization who can do that for them, that's where they fail to scale.
Gotcha.
That's a good term. I like that.
Yeah.
But so they kind of struggle because they're really good at what they do. They're not so good at being able to put all those other pieces in place to help build the business.
Yeah.
So that's where we focus on those three key points to really kind of help people narrow that down.
Yeah.
It amazes me how many people don't know their numbers. I mean, I can understand you're a little off, but I mean to where it's like so far, like not knowing that you're bleeding money here,
right.
Not realizing you're highly profitable over here, but yet you're doing more stuff over here, and it amazes me. But even then, I think people don't love to do it and all that. What you mentioned is you help people with delegation. So this would be one that it's like, I don't know the numbers, but people don't want to delegate, especially when it comes to finances. So how do you help business owners, organizations really with that delegation, not just to do it, but to do it to the right people and ensure that it's all getting done?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, when it comes down to that, first of all, it's an education process. Mm-hmm. We help them understand where the opportunity is. When you, to your point, when you go through the numbers and you look at it and you help them understand that you're losing money here, you're making money here. What this is the most profitable product. Which I've had clients that couldn't tell me what their number one products were. It's like. You got a product suite of 100 different units, and I don't know what my number one selling product is. That's a concern, right? For somebody who's been in business for a few years. So helping them understand that. So it's an education process. And I think to your point, the delegation or more specifically the letting go of certain components of the business, that's absolutely a hard conversation. I've had my fair share of challenges with owners like that, but it's first earning the trust and helping them understand, one, we're familiar with what we're doing, we're comfortable with what we're talking about more specifically, and then as we analyze the numbers, helping them see that, and then say, these are the misses, let me show you how to break this down. One of my philosophies is that you should be able to run your business on about 7 different metrics. 7 to 11, I like to say 7 because most people can only handle a certain number of metrics. But if you can get it down to these 7 metrics manage the majority of my business, it's a lot easier to handle. And to your point, I don't feel overwhelmed by all these numbers and all this stuff I have to track. So if I can narrow it down to a handful of key metrics that I can look at on a daily basis, I don't have to really dig into my financials. I can just get my financial report from my accountant or whatever it is, and then teach them how to hand that off correctly to the right people as well.
That ties into systems for automation too, is once you set up those metrics, creating systems that track those metrics for you and create the report for you. So you're not sitting there having to look through those numbers and put all those numbers together yourself. If you create a system that tracks them and does that for you and then spits out those 7 numbers, then it saves you a ton of time and headache and something you don't want to do. And so 100%, I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is you mentioned mentors when we first started, right?
Yeah.
And getting people to not see us as a consultancy. There's bigger consultancies out there. They come in and they do a lot of different things. I actually saw a good joke. It was an Office Space. Familiar with the movie Office?
Oh yeah.
The 2 Bobs. It was a meme with the 2 Bobs in there. But we don't want to be seen as a consultancy. We want to be seen as a mentor that's helping people through the process of. We're not trying to. Make them feel like they don't know what they're doing about. We want to help them understand the pieces of the business they don't understand, and then empower them to be able to do it for themselves, or find the right people who can do the things they need to do. So when they're ready to scale, they can do it effectively. So that requires a lot of handholding.
Oh yeah.
A lot of tough conversations at times, but that's the part of it that honestly that I personally thrive on. I enjoy that part, is helping educate people on that stuff.
Yeah. Turning craziness, not so fun situations, working through them, and all of a sudden the aha moments start happening,
Exactly.
The scaling starts happening, the thank you start coming in, and that's what makes it all worth it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you mentioned 7 to 11 KPIs, numbers.
Yep.
I love KPIs. I'm a huge number.
I figured as much when you said it
That's your
earlier.
business, man.
That's your thing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're big on the dashboards to show you where everything's going. But without, I guess, giving secret sauce or what are some of those numbers that I guess business owners should be focusing on, and why?
As far as numbers go, is like your client acquisition cost. How much does it cost you to get that client to close that deal? Or what's your conversion ratio? Some people don't know what the ratio is. Most small businesses think they have a lead problem, but it's really a conversion problem. They're bringing in enough leads, but they don't have the systems and processes put in place to convert those leads into sales. Maybe they aren't nourishing them enough. Maybe they're trying to close right off the bat when their product or their business needs a little bit more time spent with that customer or client before they close them. And then also the lifetime value of your customer. If you sign someone up, how many times do they rebuy? And what is the lifetime value of that person? Do they stick around for a year, normally 2 years, 5 years, or is your client sticking around for 10 years? and how many times they purchased throughout those times. So
What percentage of businesses would know those numbers that you guys work with?
Honestly,
I mean,
I would say unless they're really, I don't want to say tech savvy, but unless they're very automated already from some kind of web-based business or something like that, where it's almost intuitive, you have to do that.
Yeah.
I would say that majority of the time, it's probably 80% don't know those numbers, or don't know them well at least.
might have one or two.
Yeah.
Like they might know how many leads they get every month.
Yeah.
But then might don't know their conversion ratio, but they won't know their client acquisition cost or lifetime value of their customers, anything like that.
So funny you say those two things. Like literally, that's what we focus on helping our clients with: lowering customer acquisition costs and increasing lifetime value of a customer.
That's it.
I mean, you focus on those two things, and you're gonna be off to the races.
Yep.
But as I open with that, that's what we help with. My next question is: so what is your customer acquisition cost? Do you have it? And more times than not, you hear no, and it is amazing. So how do you help people find that? I mean, you hear systems and all that. Are there specific insights that you have on how you help people identify that?
That's a great question. I spent a majority of my time in retail and B2B, and in both those scenarios, yes, tons of years of managing sales organizations, and that was our primary focus. So when it's retail, literally we went as far as having a door counter.
Okay.
So the number of people that walk through the front door. So depending on who your client base is, if they're a retail operation, it would be how many people are you seeing a day, right? And how many actually people are crossing the door, into your facility. If it's B2B, how many calls have you made today? How many of those calls then became appointments? How many of those appointments became? And so it's walking them through. In some cases, it's and like I said, a lot of the work that I was doing previous to bringing Joe on board was I'm in your face. I'm sitting there side by side. I'm sitting on your front. In the front of your building or your whatever it is, and watching the people walk in, and I'm counting them, right? And I'm actually analyzing that for them, because the business owner typically, and you may have heard this phrase before, but it's that concept of working in your business versus working on your business, right?
Yep.
And most business owners, when they start, they're so caught up in the in that they never work on the on, right? They're not looking at it objectively from the outside. And so that's where I come into play, and I say, this is how we do this, right? And so when Joe came on, it was like, okay, now how do we do this with more people on a bigger scale? So we put together a platform. We actually have a back-end e-learning platform with hundreds of hours of video content that teaches all this information.
Worksheets to walk you through each of the videos. It's a whole e-learning. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to get lost in there, but it's been developed so much so that it walks you through it. And then the whole favorites, you can save your favorites in there. So if you find a video in a section that you enjoy, you can save it to your favorites to reference it later. It's a cool system.
Yeah. So with that platform, we incorporate then weekly coaching calls, and we have a number of different ways that we provide the coaching. We can do private sessions for the certain clients. We have other clients that they prefer the group coaching. But from a cost perspective, I can take in more clients. And but at the same time, as we're adding new coaches, because we're growing, as we add more coaches, those coaches can then take over these other groups of clients and things like that. And we can target who's working on private basis, who's working with the group coaching, and then we have just the e-learning. If somebody's just they're just getting started, we have a more basic platform, but they all get some kind of touch from us, whether it's on a monthly basis or a weekly basis, or and that allows us to engage with them and make sure that the training that they're doing through the platform with the videos or whatever, that they're getting that coaching that they need, and then more importantly, have a place to go to ask the questions. Yeah. So I see the content, I see the information, it's like I kind of understand it, but how does this apply to me directly? Yeah. And then they get that opportunity to engage with us, and we can answer some of those more specific questions for them.
No, that's awesome. I mean, how much has education been a part of your guys' growth? I mean, it's...
I would, yeah. I'll let Joe answer this. Yeah.
A lot, man. I mean, I've always called myself an entrepreneur. I mean, even while I was bartending at, bars and starting small little businesses, or, jumping into a terrible MLM company and not getting anywhere with it, and then I started taking it seriously probably 3 or 4 years ago, and education was key. I mean, just reading books, reaching out for mentors. I mean, just writing down your goals. I was telling him once, there's crazy affirmations and things like that can get you to where you need to go. One morning I wrote down, hey, I need to find a mentor, before I went into work that day. And then after that day, I sat down at the bar that night and I was reading a book on my phone, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yeah. And this old gentleman next to me, he was like, he's like, what are you reading? We were talking, and I'm like, well, what do you do? He goes, I'm retired now, but I mentor young guys and help them out. I was like, you kidding me? I just wrote that down this morning. So mentorship has been huge. And then and then knowledge, you just always got to seek knowledge.
Yeah.
And, yeah. I learn a lot with Eric, and then Eric teaches me a lot. And then we both, when we don't know something, go out and we have a mentor, we have a coach ourselves. So we're not hypocrites. We actually have a coaching coach coaching us to coach, you know?
Yeah. No, I love it. I mean, it's like I said, lots of mentorship, coaching, all of that has been a big part of success on previous guests on here. With that being said, what are the benefits? Why is coaching or mentorship so powerful? And I guess what is the difference between a consultant and someone that's going to coach?
Again, I would say my take on it, the way I look at it, the consultancy, they're more of a larger organization typically. They come in, they analyze the numbers. And the problem with the traditional consultancy is most people can't afford a consultancy.
Yeah.
And in a sense, we are that. We just like the term coach because it resonates better with a lot of people. The concept of a coach should be, in my opinion, more like a mentor. That's kind of the way that I see it. And what we really try and help people do is see the blind spots, help them see the blind spots that they don't recognize they have. If we can do that, typically we're helping a lot of small business owners because they don't, again, like I said before, they know what they're doing, but they don't necessarily know how to effectively run the business. I've watched small restaurants, right? And they get to the point where they start adding new employees. They want to add a second restaurant. Well, now they got to hire a manager to run that second restaurant. Well, guess what? They've never managed anybody other than the dishwashers and the waitresses, and bartenders or whatever they have. And now all of a sudden they're trying to manage a manager who likely has experience managing a restaurant. And now they're trying to tell them how to do it. And that may be the way they want to do it, but what they're not recognizing, this other person has experience and knowledge that they can bring to the table that would be really super valuable, but they may not be as willing to hear that information. So helping them understand how to manage somebody who's got experience and knowledge, so you can leverage that additional information and then incorporate it into your business, right? And so it's helping people understand that. So again, they don't recognize that they have those blind spots because they're so used to doing what they do. So to answer your question, I guess, like I said, we really, as we see ourselves as mentors to help people recognize the blind spots that they don't know they have.
Yeah. And from my perspective, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like consultancy also comes in and just kind of, here's what it is, here's the blueprint, go do it, where you guys do that, but also let's work through it together. And
it's the teaching you to fish
thing. Yeah, exactly.
Let's teach you to fish so that when we walk away, it doesn't crumble.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, we're going to teach you the ins and outs. And again, one of the big things is delegation, learning how to delegate. Like, you don't need to do everything. You know what you're good at. If you're kind of good at something and it doesn't, I mean, have you ever heard the term income producing activities?
Revenue driving activities.
There you go. So if you could focus on those, spend less time in your emails, it's worth paying $15 an hour to someone to just even go through your email for you and then tell you what's relevant and what you should be handling for that day. And then little things like that. Some businesses, you'd be surprised, some larger ones don't have that concept down.
Yeah. I mean, it's opportunity cost, and that is such a hard thing to grasp. It's hard to teach. So and that's so huge because some people are like, I don't want to pay someone $20 an hour to do X, Y, Z, but it's like, well, if you take a step back, you could be doing this, which would be $200 an hour that you could charge for, and it's like, how do you help show? Is it like literally just showing like, if you were to do this, that
just like you just said, as a matter of fact, so I mentioned about my book, right? So the follow-up book is my time management book, and one of the exercises I do whenever I do a time management presentation is I specifically go through this exercise that I think I originally learned from Anthony Robbins. Yeah, I think I originally learned from But the point is there's an exercise and you recognize, okay, well, what's your time worth? What's your time worth, right? And so if you say, today I make $100,000 a year, divide that by 2,000 hours, how much do I make per hour? I make $50 an hour. Well, at $50 an hour, should you be spending your time for a task that takes $10 or $15 an hour, that you could pay somebody $10 or $15 an hour? And logically, like, no, I probably shouldn't, but I can't necessarily justify it yet. And so my point at that point is that we need to figure out how to justify that, because that's what's holding you back.
Yeah.
You're doing something that you could be paying somebody else a fraction of what you should be making. Now, there's a lot more that goes into that, because in the time management component, there's also the aspect of, how much time are you doing income-producing activities, right? And that income-producing activities is really worth $50 an hour. So that's where we break it down, because when we realize, okay, out of your, let's say, 50 hours a week, right?
Yeah.
How many of those 50 hours are you actually doing income-producing activities? Well, maybe like 20% of the time. So your actual hourly rate, when we break it down by 20%, is 5 times $50 an hour. So your time is actually worth $250 an hour.
Yeah.
And so now when you talk about a $10, you talk about a $10 task or a $15 task, your time's actually worth $250 when you're actually generating and doing what you're good at, right? When you're working in your expertise and you're doing the things you're good at, you're actually worth $250 an hour. That $10 an hour is a pittance in comparison, right?
Yeah.
Go get somebody to do those tasks, teach them, develop them, and invest time in them, and then you can spend 50%, 75% of your time at that $250 an hour.
Yeah.
And that's how you go from $100,000 a year to $500,000 a year in gross revenue.
That's the key.
Yeah,
I mean, that's huge. And I mean, is the next, I guess, not pushback, but the discussion then like, okay, that makes sense, but I don't have the cash flow to hire that.
Absolutely.
Cash flow is king. I mean, as we're starting to grow, it's like, oh, wow, that realizing how important that cash flow is crucial. And that sounds good. I can hire someone at $15 an hour full time to do this, but I don't have the money to do that. So how do business owners get out of that? And to me, it would be, well, if I'm only spending 20% of my time on revenue driving activities, what is the path to get to 30, 35? So then it brings in the cash to then pay for that.
Right.
So one of the first things you do when you start working with us is we take you through like a comprehensive business analysis. Mm-hmm. It's a software we have that goes over 42 points.
40 points.
40 points and shows you making little changes, 3% here, 4% there, 5% there, how much revenue you can create just by making those little changes. So what we do is we get you that whole printout. And it goes over marketing, it goes over all the stuff we talked about today. And then we decide on one or two of those to focus on first that are the fastest that we can make changes in. And then once we get those changes going in your business, then that money will be coming in. Then we can start using that money to delegate it towards the things we're talking about as far as moving your time into more income producing activities and hiring someone to do other things. So.
Yeah. What we use, a phrase we use, we say basically give us 45 minutes and we'll show you how to find $50,000 in your business.
I love that.
Yeah, and we can guarantee
and it's usually
that.
more.
It's usually. I did one on one of my existing clients. We kind of went back and we were going through the software, and I'm like, I found him $500,000 in revenue.
Wow.
Now that's potential revenue, right? You can still got to execute the executables to get that result, right?
Yeah.
But the point is that when we went through it, and the key is without spending any additional money on marketing or advertising. Now, you being in marketing, that's probably not something you want to hear, but the point is, to your point earlier, if they don't have the cash, how do I bring in more cash without having to spend more money?
Yeah.
And generally speaking, when we go through these 40 different points, and it's categorized in different areas of your business, and when we look at that, a lot of it is just simple, better execution on things you're already doing.
Yeah.
So and it could be something as simple, and this you can relate with, taking your existing customer base and doing an additional campaign.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like, hey, we haven't touched these customers that we've got 1,000 customers we've sold to over the last 2 or 3 years. We haven't touched them in X number of months or whatever. Yeah. Let's send out a specific campaign targeted directly to those 1,000 people, and let's set a price point of $100 of a product or a bundle of products or something like that. And out of those 1,000 people, if we get 200 to respond and 100 to buy at $100, I just found you $10,000.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sure you deal with that a lot too.
Well, I mean, and I'd love to ask you guys this is what we see is so many businesses focus on new customer acquisition and completely spend $0 or activity.
So
on,
I was going to ask you that too, man.
Yeah.
I was going to get there. I was going to ask you, I was like, so with your people, do you find a lot that they aren't following up with customers? They think like they don't get the sale the first time, that's it.
Oh yeah,
That's crazy.
Wow. I mean the nurturing that is huge.
Yep.
The reactivation. I mean that's something. Have a client that's basically what we did is, I mean, people are purchasing. We had like a thank you, but we basically went through and there's opportunity in 30 days down the road. Show them something similar. If they bought a shirt, say, hey, we thought these shorts would go great. Or how can we bring value off of previous purchases using data, and all of a sudden we started driving an extra $10,000-$15,000 a month just on this one little tactic. And then it goes, well, then how can we do it for if you abandon the cart, and you start building it. But I mean, it's the focus before was so much how can we get in front of new people and all, and it's you have people that already spend, you already have people spending money. The easiest person to sell is someone that's already done business with you.
Buyers buy.
Yeah, so better way to say it.
Yeah, buyers buy. That's one of the hardest things I try and get people to understand when they have that focus of just being solely new customer acquisition. I'm like, that's great, except for those people who bought from you, they'll buy more from you. They'll continue to buy from you. It's funny, it was when I looked at the personal development category, and I was working with a client who's probably when I was in that area, I'm trying to help them grow their business, and we were looking at it, and I'm like, wow, 80% of your sales come from 20% of your customers. Go figure. Have you ever heard of the 80-20 principle, right?
Yeah.
And so what's funny is that same customer would buy product 1, product 2, product 3, maybe skip product 4, product 5, product 6. And I was like, if you keep offering those products to that customer, they like you. They like your personality. You engage with them. That they want to buy from you. They'll continue to buy from you. And it doesn't matter what product you're selling. You know, if they like and appreciate what you provide for them, they'll continue to buy from you. And you've got those loyal customers. But if you, to your point, never follow up with them, you lose all that potential sale.
What we've found is that on average for us, because for getting clients, sometimes with our lower programs, it's easier to get somebody in. But on average, it takes like 1 to 5% of the people that actually interact with us for the first time are going to buy right away.
Yeah.
And then it takes anywhere from 10 to 15 more touch points if someone doesn't purchase to get them to purchase in. And then once they're in, they're in. And then we can start dripping them more and offering them more programs and how to help them. And so it's the only like 1 to 5% of the people that are going to see us for the first time are actually going to purchase anything.
Yeah. We call it buy now customers.
Yeah, that'll buy now.
Yeah.
And then if you only focus on those 5%, if that, then 95% of the money that you're spending on marketing is going to waste.
Right.
So funny, we speak the same language. We're talking like ads and stuff like that. So many people want to drive new traffic, but I'm like, a good business is only going to close 3%. So 97% of people are going to land on your website and leave. What are we doing with those 97% of people?
Yes.
Let's shift budget not to reach new people. Let's say different things. Let's show different benefits that we had, the different features, the testimonial. Like, let's focus on those people that already showed interest that left, as opposed to spending all of our money on trying to drive new people.
Exactly.
And that conversion rate grows, and all of a sudden the profitability from all the marketing grow, and it's.
Give away a sticker pack and collect their information so that you could drip them emails. Or like, there's so many different ways to do it, and I'm sure you guys are way better. We preach more on the concepts of it and try to get into it. You guys are way beyond us as far as understanding how all of that works on the online portion.
Yeah,
of it.
I was gonna say the online portion.
that's-
You guys are the operations and the actual building the business.
Yeah, we'll be
like-
talking after this podcast for sure.
Yeah.
You guys are helping tons of businesses. I mean, just find blind spots, areas of opportunity that we're never seen before.
Right.
What are some areas of opportunities that you guys have, I guess, struggled with that it took a mentor to identify it? And I guess what are some of those things that you've had to overcome?
One of the opportunities is always going to be the thing that you've never seen before, right? So I have seen a lot. You know, Joe likes to remind me how old I am. So, but
Just occasionally.
yeah. But you know, so I have seen a lot, and there's a lot of things that don't really scare me because I've been there and I've done that.
Yeah.
You know, in the military, you know, you people are like, "Weren't you scared?" I'm like, "No, I'd already been there half a dozen times. It doesn't really scare me now." So getting people to understand that once you've experienced it, it's not the end of the world. And you're like, oh, wow, I can actually figure out. And next time I know to do it better. And then it comes up again, and I'm like, oh, I can do it even better out of that. But I would say that for me, the best the scenario I could go through is preparation for, to your point, to my point, what I was saying is what I don't know, right?
Yeah.
What I haven't seen. And so there are certain things about what we're doing today that I haven't seen yet as we scale this business. For instance, COVID, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's seen COVID, but certain people really responded well to COVID. People really, and then they were like, we're going to pivot. We're going to shift. We're going to go to Zoom. We're going to do this. We're going to go online. We're going to do more here. I could have told you that. And I think that the difference is that I had clients and I kept saying, we need to get online. We need to get online.
Yeah.
You guys aren't online. You have an offline business. You need to get more online. And they didn't. And then COVID hit and it was like, boom.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about like a 50, 60, 70% hit in sales.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, it's like, I understand, you know, you got to allocate the resources. You got to make sure you set the time aside to get these things done. But if we don't do it, you're going to miss the turn. And I was worried about missing growing sales for them. And as it was like salvage the business from COVID, right? So, you know, it's like nobody can prepare for something like that, but how you respond to something like that. And that's where that's a component of our coaching we try and do, which is incorporating people in the group coaching and leveraging the networking component of it. The sharing of best practices amongst different people. And so one of the things I never want to allow myself to do is get closed-minded in that I have the only answer. I have lots of answers, but I don't have the only answer. And the one thing that really made me successful in my career was the fact that I listened to the people who were doing the job. You know, so I would say that honestly, you know, some of my best mentors were actually people who worked for me that would actually point out to me and say, hey, boss, you know, this doesn't work the way you guys think it works on the floor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, tell me how it works, you know, and then I would sit and I'd become a student. And I know that that's why a lot of my employees respected me over the years, because I took the time to listen, and I took the time to understand their plights, their frustrations, and what they were going through. And then I could go back and I'd formulate a better strategy or concept or something like that. And I go back to the ownership group and I'd be like, we need to tweak this.
Yep.
It's not working because of this, this, and this. And it sounds great on paper. I get it. You know, it looks good in the numbers, but in the end of the day, it's not getting executed because of this, this, and this. So I think that you know, just constantly reminding myself that I don't have all the answers, and more importantly, looking for the answers from the people that are doing the jobs out there is really a great way to do that.
He sends me about 10 emails every morning. Hey, look at this idea. Hey, look at this idea. And he's following all these other people in our industry, as I do as well. But he's always grasping information and ideas all across the industry and all across business. And he's like, hey, we could do this. We could do this. We could do this.
Yeah.
This could help a client in the future. When he was talking about COVID, he found a way to get a larger, like one loan. Of course, everyone knows the big loan that came through COVID, but then he found another way to get another loan for the company.
Yeah. So I helped the client get 2 PPP loans and an idle loan that literally salvaged the business, kept the business alive. Otherwise, they would have filed. This is a business, a family business has been around for over 40 years.
Wow. And
they would have been completely out of business. They would have been to the point where they had to shut down. We were able to stay open, not just afloat. We were able to stay open all throughout COVID. Now, granted, it was tough and it was a lot of blood. But I was able to help them get through that. And more importantly, now we're up 50% year over year, or even 25% year over the year previous to COVID.
Wow.
So sales are rebounding. And what I told them very specifically was, trust me, right? Difficult conversation, right? But trust me, because I'm telling you, things like this, if you wade through this and you can ride this out, you're going to be 100 times stronger.
Oh, yeah.
And your competitors, the ones that couldn't adjust, couldn't adapt, they're going to be left on the wayside, and you're going to capture that market share.
Yep.
And I am certain that is a big component of why our sales are up the way they are.
I never even thought about that, just the shift in market share and how many competitors there are over the last year. Because, I mean, so many businesses are doing good, but it's probably because so many businesses failed. And, I mean, it's unfortunate. It's always tough to plan for something you don't know that's happening, but you know, when you're going through the thick of it, now's not the time that you have the cash to fund the R&D. Should have been doing it 12 14 months before, getting more digital or whatever that may be. But you know, one thing you mentioned, I've done it before. It's not as scary or as hard. It's easier this next time. I love that, because I feel so many people put so much fear and anxiousness into, I haven't done it. I'm just do it. And once, like, how many times do people get through it and all of a sudden it's like, that wasn't as hard, and now it becomes easier and easier. If you get used to just putting yourself in uncomfortable positions, it gets easier. I mean, how much of that is part of business growth? I mean,
getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
80-20.
Exactly.
Get really comfortable being uncomfortable and just keep pushing yourself. I mean, they say, what is it? Will Smith, his whole, you know, the greatest things are just on the edge of fear, you know, once
just
you take
outside
it. So most business owners, you know, they get so comfortable and complacent when they're like, I want to scale, but then they don't realize they have that fear of scaling. You know, their internal thermostat of who they are doesn't resonate with a business being at the next level. So coaching them through that, teaching them like, hey, look, like, we know you're complacent, you're comfortable, and scaling is a little scary, but we'll show you how to do it right. And in doing it right, you got to just step on the outside of fear and follow the processes, and you can make some more money for your family and really create a legacy. So
my mentor, Jack Canfield, it was everything you really want is just outside your comfort zone. And so each time, you know, you find yourself kind of bumping up the comfort zone, feeling that angst, you know, and you're like, oh, I'm not. You should get excited, right? It should be excitement, not nervousness. Because the excitement is you're about to have a breakthrough. That's his strategy. That's the way he coached us. And the very first, there's 67 principles that we were taught. That's the concept of the coaching that we did with Jack. The very first one is 100% responsibility, and that I honestly spend as much time coaching that. I wouldn't say like from the amount of time that I'm coaching, but that's probably one of the most important, and it's a significant piece, because until the owner owns that part of it, right, and then truly owns it, right, because I've had some conversations with people, they say they own it and they don't really own it, right, but that 100% responsibility, everything is on you, right? And as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
we kind of joked about
Yeah.
that literally. Is like everything's on you,
Yeah.
right? The payroll, if you don't, you guys don't make the numbers, the payroll's on you. You got to figure out how to make it work. The rent's got to get paid, whatever, right? Everything's on you. But when you have somebody who's like, yeah, but this happened, yeah, but that happened, yeah, but COVID happened. Yeah, well, that doesn't help the situation. If you have that attitude, unfortunately, you're setting yourself up for failure, because it's just going to be the next excuse that you can't overcome. It's going to be the difference between whether you're successful or not successful. And so the mindset of a business owner is probably where we spend, or what need to spend, as much time as we do on the coaching of the the numbers and the strategy and the systems and the automation and all that kind of stuff. Because until the owners kind of bought into the idea that, yes, I can grow this to $1 million a year, that it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's all different. I mean, every client, that's why we run the analysis and talk with you so much. I mean, just to get the 45-minute free consultation, you have to talk with me for 15 minutes. I get a bunch of information. I gather, learn about you, and then you get the consultation with Eric. And then we really get a good idea of, like, is it mental, or is it in your business, or where is it in your business? And so every client's going to be different of where we're going to focus on first. But we're going to really want to focus on creating that little bit of extra revenue so that we can start putting it places that you need to put it,
What is the percentage difference between just the mental side of it compared to just, I don't know how to operate a business? Because I grew up playing baseball through college and stuff like that. I'm a huge proponent of this up here.
Absolutely.
And no matter what's thrown at you, sweet. It's all about how you react, or how you move forward. I mean, no matter how hard you've had it, there's someone that's had it worse from you that has overcome it. And so it's none of those should be excuses. So how often do you see that it is more the mental side than just, I don't know how to operate or really scale?
80-20.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm throwing it out there, but I will venture to say that if I go back and I chronicle all the different people I've coached, as we grow, I continue to see more of it, right? It's there's the mental component of it that they have, and a lot of it has to do with the fact of how long you've been doing it, right? If you think about it, you take somebody who's good at a skill, right, a practice of some sort.
Yeah.
Right? You're a weaver, you're a basket maker, whatever it is, you turn it into a business, right? We took it from a hobby to a business, and now you're making money at it. And you're really good at that, right? But that skill set that made you successful to whatever point that you're successful at is not what's going to make you successful to the next level.
Yeah.
Right? So what got you here won't get you there, if you've heard that analogy
Oh,
before.
yeah.
And that's the challenge. And at every leap you go through the same thing again. And I don't remember if it was Will Smith, but there was somebody else that was actually talking about that. The idea that when you get to that next level, what you have to remember is that you're going to suck at the next level, right?
Yeah.
It's like with baseball. Okay,
Yeah.
so you go through you go through 6 to 8, right? Age group, where you're 6 to 8, and you're king of the 6 to 8 group.
Yep.
You go to the 10 to 12 group, and you're not quite as good. You're
Yeah.
that next group, right?
It's a
8 to
big
12,
cycle.
And you go 8 to 12. Well, it's a 4-year span. So now all of a sudden you're not so good at that level anymore. It's like only the phenoms are super good when they make that transition in that next division or whatever. And then the same thing happens when you turn 12. You go 13. Now you're not so good anymore, and you gotta be prepared and comfortable being uncomfortable, kind of sucking at that level until you get to the next level. So you have to be willing to commit and invest that time and energy into and the constitution of working through the things that you're not good at so you can get better. The nice thing is as you have those successes, it comes faster, like we were talking about, right? The experience plays on itself. But by far and away, it's the psychological component of it that plays into it. And as you grow your business, you're going to go through these phases. Hire first employee, hire second employee, hire 5 employees, hire 10 employees. And each time it brings its own battles and challenges. And, first time you've had a setback financially for whatever reason, you're like not where you need to be. One of the mistakes I made, and I tell people openly about this, with my trucking business, I wasn't capitalized to scale as fast as I did. And so consequently it cost us, and it challenged me, and I had to make some major adjustments. But the growth that we had was phenomenal. People were like, I told people right out of the gate, I'm like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this and this. And I literally had people tell me, oh, well, it's great. They didn't
Cool dreams.
Yeah, they didn't poo-poo him. They were like, yeah, no. But they were like, oh, that's great, yeah. And then like 6 months later, like, wow, you told me you were going to do this, and you're doing better than you said you're going to do. And I'm like, yeah, just watch, But what the challenge is that again, I was doing something I hadn't done before. I had prepared to scale at that level, at that speed, and so I didn't have the capital I needed. And so then I had to learn how to raise capital. Well, that's a whole nother business skill set that if you've not had to raise capital before, And so again, I go back to, Joe said he loves to help people. It's one of the first things he said. And that's my thing. I'm like, let me help you through the challenges that I've already struggled through and show you how to do this better, because there's so many different components to the business you need to be prepared for.
Absolutely. And you got to be a little crazy. So when we're talking about what kind of business do you want? Do you want to scale a business? Do you want to have $1 million business, or do you want a lifestyle business? Do you want something that, you're the basket weaver and you're really good at being a basket weaver and you just want to make money being yourself weaving baskets? Or do you want to have 50 basket weavers working for you, So when we work with businesses, it's really tough because sometimes they don't know the difference.
Right.
Like, do I want to make $1 million, or do I just want to make a living? Or do I need just 10 grand a month? Where are you at? And what is your goal? And if your goal is to scale, you got to be a little bit crazy, because you are going to be hitting those walls and entering those new levels, and realize that you got to find it a little fun to get your butt kicked sometimes, man. I got my butt kicked. How do I come back from this? And that's what makes the difference with the people that love to scale and want large businesses to the people that just want, their sole little lifestyle business. Yeah. Where it's just like, I want to be someone who hems pants and I want to be a pant hemmer and make money and not have to work for somebody. So.
Yeah, it's amazing, because even I've started to learn to ask that, because we've started working with companies to where we're all about, we want to help grow, we want to help scale and blow it up for our clients, but we found that sometimes start working and it's like, well, that's not what I want to do. I'm good. I'd like to grow a little bit, but their 5-year plan wasn't to just absolutely crush it, and so started asking that a bit more, like, what is your goal? Do you want to grow? Do you want more locations? Do you want more people? And it's amazing how many people don't know, right? But again, it goes back to those goals and knowing what it is that you want. And that being said, it sounds like you guys help with goal setting quite a bit. Most people try and like to look at 5-10 years, these super long-term goals, but as we know with COVID, that can change in 1 week.
Sure.
What are you guys working on from a personal perspective and for the business in the next 3 to 6 months? What are you guys looking to accomplish?
So we have a very specific goal right now. We have a particular program that we put together, more of an entry-level program that we want to get. What we want to do, because as I mentioned before, a lot of my individual work prior to was just working one-on-one with these companies, and we want to kind of scale that out, right? So our big focus right now is to try and get at least 100 these lower entry level programs that were smaller business owners, right?
Yeah.
Like, solopreneurs and things like that can help them, maybe double their revenue.
Yeah.
Right. And that'll be a significant impact in their business and allow them to scale. But want to allow that to kind of come together, I guess I should say. But our goal is to get to 100 by the end of the year of these smaller programs, while adding an incremental 25 of the medium to larger programs.
The more one-on-ones in the group, more frequent group coachings.
Yeah, right.
But the smaller programs, we want to fill that up, because again, what you were talking about, we fill up those smaller programs at a lower price. If they bought once, then we can, they coach, they see some value in it. They're like, I have more questions about this program, help me make some money. Yeah. And I'm not getting as much one-on-one time or group time as I'd like. And then they upgrade their program to more group time. They jump into
or I'm ready for the next step. Let me amp it up. Right. Yeah. And say, now I want to go from, 10 grand a month to 25 grand a month. Yeah. And what's that going to look like? And then so we can put them through another strategy session, and just kind of upgrade their commitment. And then because with each level of, from a financial commitment, there's that level of how much more work we're doing with them. Oh yeah. And so there's got to be a commensurate level of commitment on both ends, right? Yeah. And we're more than happy to help that person, but they've got to make sure that they're committed to it. And that comes back to that question, how far do you want to go?
Yeah. Right? Exactly.
Yeah. And make sure that we're on the same page, because I don't ever. It's funny because over the years when I did sales and I was a sales manager, and then as I moved into different roles, I always reminded people, I'm like, look, I interview in a certain way, and the one thing I want to do is I want to scare you out of the job. And they would, well, why? It's like, because this is a hard job. Nobody wants to do sales. And if they want to do sales, they're exactly who I want to hire, right? But, a lot of people will come in, it sounds really good. I want to make $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 a year. I want to make $150,000 a year. Lots of people want to make that money, but are you willing to do the work? Are you willing to go through the tough stuff? Early days of selling wireless, it was like people would come in and the phone didn't work, and they'd get mad and they'd throw the phone at you. We had some crazy scenarios in the early days, Wow. And but I'm like, yeah, it's great you want to do this, but realistically, do you have the constitution? Are you really going to put the time and energy in? Are you going to invest in yourself to develop yourself? Because if you're not going to work out, because you won't work out for me, because I have high expectations of the team that works for me, but they get everything from me.
Yeah.
I give them everything I can possibly give them, and so it's got to be a trade-off.
Yeah.
One of the first things we ask people too on that 15-minute call is I'll ask them, I'm like, so how coachable are you?
Yes.
What do you consider yourself? And like, be honest with me, because when you get people in that aren't coachable or consider themselves like know-it-alls, and you can pick up on that. And I won't ask that question if I already figured that out in the 15 minutes, then I'm not even going to ask the question. I'll just put it in the notes, like, hey, feel them out. This is how I feel about it. But a lot of people, they're like, yeah, I want some coaching, but it's like, how, like, do you take the action steps? Are you open to criticism?
Yeah.
Like, where do you fall on that? Because if we're going to work together, you need to be okay with that, because Eric can be a little bit of a heartache. And if you're not doing what you say you're going to do, and you're paying us a decent amount of money to help you do it, then we don't want you coming back at us mad at us because you're not following through. So we want to make sure that our goals are aligned with you, and we understand, and we can work together on that.
Right.
And you guys only have so much time. If you have that, it takes the opportunity of someone that really wants your help that could actually succeed. So it's don't be selfish, and it takes work. And again, very similar. It's we'll get someone, or we've had people in the past, and this is where more discovery comes in. But hire us and think, oh, we just hired them, they're going to do everything. But it's like, well, you're better. No, it's a partnership. Right. We need some work from you guys just as much as we're going to be putting in. I mean, we're going to try to make your life easier.
They can't just throw money at it. Is that what you're saying? I'm just going to throw money over here at you, and then I'm not going to do anything. And then why isn't it working? Yeah.
I was going to say, there was a client I took on a project, and they needed a website designed, and I don't do that kind of work, but I understood what they needed to do, and I wanted to help with some of the strategy that went in behind it. Excuse me, sorry. But as we went through the process, one of the things that was obvious to me is the company had 3,200 products. Wow. And they're putting the site together, and you have to get a description for every product. And these are pretty intricate items with a lot of description and measurements and dimensions and all this kind of stuff. Excuse me. But what was crazy was when you started looking at what the process needed to look like, the people that were developing the site, they're like, well, we need this and we need this and we need this, and the owners are kind of like, well, we thought you were going to do it all. And I'm like, and as a consultant, I had not designed a website before. I didn't really know what to expect entirely, but as I got into the project, I'm like, ooh, no. Because if we wanted them to do it, the reality is how they don't have any basis to. Yeah. You're talking 3,200 products, and you're not talking about like shirts and jeans, right? It's like that everybody has access to. We're talking about stuff that's very unique that most people wouldn't have really even understand the products, And so, ironically, what I realized was, I'm like, no, they can't do that work.
Yeah.
And you can't just outsource that work. So you got to figure out how you're going to do that. And so we had to come up with a whole different strategy to kind of go about that. But so it was a little bit of learning experience on my end. But what was frustrating though was getting the owners to understand that, like, nah, you're going to have to do this. Right? And we went through the extensive conversations. I'm like, these guys can't just make stuff up. So, but getting clear, understanding of what how we're going to move forward with this. They wanted the website, needed it done, but they didn't realize how much work it was going to be. And it's funny how you go through that.
Yeah, a lot of work. A lot of work than most people realize, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, this has been great. There's been so much information. I mean, I could probably go on for another 7 hours. This is great. Like I said, the audience, small business owners, entrepreneurs, I'm sure that there's quite a bit that people are chomping at the bit just to reach out to you guys. So if someone wants to engage with you guys, kind of go through your process, how can people find you?
One of the easiest ways, we have a website. We have a few websites. One of the main ones we'll put out there for you guys is going to be The Biz Coaches. So that's thebizcoaches.com. And if they want to log on to that site, if you guys want to log into that site, you could download our free ebook and you learn some of the strategies we teach on as far as like joint ventures, a whole bunch of different ideas that we didn't even touch on today. That can actually help increase your revenue, and it's absolutely free. Download it. We're going to capture your information. We're going to send you some emails, and but if you want to book a call with us too, that's going to be on the website. Scroll a little bit down. You're going to see the website. You can book a call with me, jump on for 15 minutes. We'll schedule you with Eric and do a full 45-minute business consultation for you, absolutely no cost, and print out some strategies for you to help you grow your business. So both those resources completely free. Just get in contact with us. We'd love to talk with you.
Awesome. Any other parting words before We break.
No, congratulations on everything you've built here,
Yeah,
man. Like,
absolutely.
incredible.
Oh, thank you. Thank
It's
you.
always fun meeting other young entrepreneurs. I mean, I work with him all day, so.
Yeah.
It's fun to getting to sit around other young entrepreneurs and hang
Yeah.
out with them. So.
Well,